Good morning guys. In today's video we're going to take a look at film simulations on the Fujifilm cameras, and I'm going to try using a custom film simulation for the very first time on my X-T4. I've taken some shots, you can just see the previews over my shoulder, so let's get straight into it. Setup process for the film simulations is actually pretty easy. There's a little bit of a trick to it. You have to get into the custom settings, and also all of the film simulations are based on one of the existing Fujifilm baseline film simulations. For instance, the Portra 100 simulation that I used today when I was out and about shooting in Kayama is based on the classic Chrome film simulation. So the way it works is you take your baseline film simulation, for instance the classic Chrome, and then you tweak all the other settings such as the color and the clarity and the sharpness and all that kind of stuff. And you do so in an effort to emulate some of the film reels from old. So for instance, you can get Kodak looking film simulations with your Kodachrome look, or you can try the Portra 100 for instance that I'm using. There's all sorts of different film simulations. I'll include a link to where to find them in the description below this video too. So the attraction of all this is so that you can kind of recreate the days of old when you would take your photographs on your film camera and you'd send them off to be processed and you'd get them back, and what you got, that was it. There was no changing it. Since then, of course, about 20 years ago, we all started getting access to the raw digital format, which is like a digital negative, and we've all become very used to processing our images using Lightroom, such as you can see over my shoulder here, or Capture One or something like that. And so the point of the film simulations is that you try and recreate that filmic look without any processing, but still using the terrific advanced digital cameras such as the X-T4. Anyone who sat through a processing session for a load of photos that you've imported into Lightroom from your SD card knows that it's very time consuming, firstly, and it's not terribly interesting. Normally you start with a baseline tweak and then you have to go and modify all the others sort of based on that, tweaking the colors and the clarity and all that kind of stuff. And the other thing is that there's this temptation also to push the processing too far. So for instance, you end up with these sort of heavily processed Instagram style photographs. So with the film simulations, you pick a look and you go out and you take some photographs, and the JPEGs are like the equivalent of those photographs you used to get back from the developers. It's baked in. So like I said, this was my first time using the film simulations on the X-T4. In fact, it was my first time using anything other than RAW. I picked a look I liked and I set it up in camera, and I took a little walk around Kayama Harbour and took some test photographs. I wasn't going for anything too tricksy with my landscape photography. I was just trying to get a variety of shots so I could kind of see the way that the camera exposed the photographs and treated the colour science and all that kind of stuff. And I'd like to go through them now and talk to you about them in Lightroom, so let's get straight into that. I saw this old couple walking down the edge of the harbour there, and I thought this would look like a classic holiday kind of snapshot, and indeed that was what I immediately thought when I started processing it. We can zoom in on this a little bit and we can see that the camera has added this film grain. This is part of the recipe, and all of them have this sort of grain in there, but this particular Portra recipe does. And as you can see, the ocean here has got a kind of a green tinge to it. The sky is quite sort of crushed, I guess, washed out. Certainly a lot lighter blue color than the skies were actually on the day, and I actually really quite like the look of these shots. They do look extremely reminiscent of the photographs I used to take with my old Instamatic camera back in the day. So let's move on to the next shot. This is the famous Kiama Lighthouse. and I'll just get rid of the side panels there so we can see better what's going on. And again, we've got this very nice sort of muted sort of almost greeny blue sky. Nothing too sort of blown out with the colors. It's not a vivid film simulation, but I think it's done a really good job of simulating a filmic look. Let's go on to the next one. So this was shot with my 100 to 400 zoom, quite wide open, f5.6, just shooting across the front of the boats in the harbour there. This sort of lifebuoy, whatever the hell this is, this float thing here, was very, very vibrant orange, and so you can see what it's done there, and I really love the look of the yellows in this rope here. Moving on, this is the famous Kayama fish market, which has this extremely vibrant frontage, and I was pleased to take this shot just to see how the film simulation treated this. We've got this very dark area here, of course. That's nothing to do with the simulation. That's literally just the camera trying to balance the extremely bright exterior with the interior of the shop. I like what it's done with the reds. Again, they're not too vibrant, and the yellow on the front of this place is really bright, almost sort of lemony yellow, and it's toned those down really nicely. I love, I have to say, the look of the yellows. So once I'd taken this shot, I wandered around the corner to one of the local cafes, and I saw these guys. This is still on the big zoom, not at full stretch this time, shot at 260 millimeters. These dudes were sat there, they just had their fish and chips, and the gulls were of course in attendance, scrounging for scraps, and I really like the way this has come out. I'm not sure I'd ever have processed an image like this in Lightroom from a raw file, but I love the way this looks. It really has a classic filmic feel to it. I absolutely love the way the water looks. I love the way that the white contrasts with it. I love the muted greens in here. It's a really, really nice shot. Okay, moving on. This is actually my favorite coming up. I absolutely love this shot. So this is down, I shot down and walked down on the boat ramp. I didn't get down on the ground to shoot this. I was down on the boat ramp shooting across, so the ground was sort of at my eye level as I walked down the ramp, and the birds were still scrounging, and I shot across with the 400mm, so I'm still at full stretch here, 400mm f5.6, focused on this dude at the front here, and I just love this shot. I love everything about it. I'd be really happy with this if it was a raw file, but I really like the way it looks in this. And as with the other shots, I'm not sure I'd ever have sat down in Lightroom and sort of tried to recreate this myself from raw, but I really love the way this looks. And then finally, we have this shot, which again, I was just going for that kind of seaside snap sort of look. I'm not endeavouring to create great photographic art with these shots, I'm just trying to showcase the sort of look and feel of the images. And I was trying to capture this dude. I had completely the wrong focus mode on the camera to capture the seagull, but I went for it anyway. And eventually got him in focus as he was flying towards this Norfolk pine tree down there on the harbour. I think it was a very successful experiment with this film simulation. And so if you haven't tried these, I say give it a go. It's so liberating to just have these JPEGs just pulled straight off the camera. I've done absolutely nothing to any of these images. This is the JPEG straight off the SD card and imported into Lightroom. So actually I'm really pleased with how the photographs came out. I love the look of the JPEGs. I love the fact that I didn't have to do a damn thing once I got them off the card. I literally just imported them into Lightroom. I love the way the photographs look. I like the grain that the camera added using the particular film simulation that I was using, and I will most definitely be exploring more of these film simulations over the coming months and years. So if you've never tried any of these film simulations on your camera, or you're thinking about getting a Fujifilm camera just to try them, I can heartily recommend it. I'm really pleased with the results, and I will be definitely using them on a regular basis from this day forward. Thanks guys, see you next time.